Hi, friends. How we doing today? This is episode 3 of the podcast of Open Canvas Live, and I'm so excited to be here. I am your co-host, Mr. Brodie. I don't know why I said Mr. That's my father, Brodie. And our co-host Chris will not be joining us tonight. He is not feeling well right now, but don't worry, it's not Rona related. But if you can, whether you pray, whether you believe in good vibes, good spirit, good energy, whatever you believe in, please just send him love his way. Just give it to him. That way he can make a speedy recovery and he can join us again in the near future. But in the meantime, I'm so thrilled to have a special guest with us here today. He is actually he's quite phenomenal. In some cases, he's helped to make sure that Open Canvas certain episodes just stay afloat and run smoothly. So I'm so pleased to announce this individual. Can y'all give an open canvas welcome to Mr. Jeremiah Davison?
What's up? What's up? Pew, 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 pew. Look, I'm gonna do the vocal one. Uh, yeah, man. Thank you for having me, Jared. Man, I'm excited to be here.
Yeah,
Hey, everybody. I love y'all podcast. I love what y'all doing. I
thank
told
you.
Chris the other day if I really, really had it, I would like sponsor, put a lot of money on it, but man, I ain't got it like that yet. But
Yeah,
yeah,
we
let me see.
appreciate that. Listen, we are all in some hard times right now. Hence the topic of the episode today. But before we get into that, let us give us a little bit of insight of like who you are. Um, you know, you we know who you are, but we don't know who you are.
I get that a lot. Well, I'm Jeremiah Davison. I am a sound designer, director, and actor. I know it's like, oh, he got all those titles, but yes, I like to dibble and dabble behind the scenes a lot more than acting. Acting is just one of the things that I enjoy doing, but sound design is one of my primary things right now. It's a thing I actually am invested in with Chris. We do a lot of sound design together around town. We have our own company together, Multi Band Studios. Shout out,
Ooh,
bam.
yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, I've sound design. I started under his wing, sound designing, and I was assistant to him, an associate, and just working all these different at these different theaters. And then word got out, and then I started sound designing and sound engineering, my own shows. And I mean, when I say directing, that's my ultimate love. That's the one I'm really, really, really just passionate about, and that's the not that I'm not passionate about the sound design, but it's the one that is like where I'm really trying to go. And one of the things with sound design is I realized, and this is where finances kind of come in. It was a way that it was something I'm good at. It was something that I'm pretty good at. It was something that I was passionate about, and it
Mm-hmm.
was also a way to put me in a room next to directors, next to actors, next to people that are very great and creative. So
Word.
yeah. That's a little bit about me. Yeah, I went to we both went. We're both alums of Georgia Perimeter College, and then I transferred to University of West Georgia. Uh,
Yes.
and did an actors internship at Actors Express.
Uh-oh.
And yeah, man, you with me? Yeah, cool. Yeah. So that's who I am. I'm whoever you need me to be, but primarily I am a sound designer
Listening.
and director. Yes.
You better be malleable. Listen, that's what keeps you relevant. Staying afloat, having that adaptability,
Hmm.
especially as artists. Lord knows. Please
Yep.
forgive me. Just 1 second. I'm gonna turn off my unit so that way we don't hear a buzzing sound in the recording. And I'm gonna grab my sangria. I'll be right back.
Come on, Sangria. Come on, come on. So yes, in the meantime, if you guys have any questions, we're going to be talking about finances today. You have any questions at all? We're primarily going to be talking about like freelancing versus like an actual like full-time job. So if you have any questions regarding that, go ahead, drop them in. We're going to get to them. We're going to be talking about financial traumas, PTSDs, which finances, balances, pay rates. So any questions at all concerns, let us know.
Yes, very much so. All the questions you may have, that's just been, pondering your mind, especially during this time where finances aren't necessarily readily available to a lot of people right now.
Mm-hmm.
And we understand, especially artists. I'm being an artist myself, totally understand that like we are all we're just trying to make it by day, and
Baby.
yeah, it's real. It's real. So, just to kind of get a background, you gave us an extensive background of what you do, but are you solely freelance, or are you still working a 9 to 5 while freelancing, or are you just full time? Like, what is your background as far as like
I am
your current
solely
job?
I am solely freelance, but I just became officially freelance in September, pretty much on my birthday, September 19th of last year, 2019.
Won't even do it.
Right, amen. Come on now. But yeah, don't get me started. But yeah, I was freelancing. I started freelancing then, and but before that, I've always worked. I always have a job. I don't know how not to have a job. But before that, I was working as a part-time scene shop supervisor at Georgia Perimeter College. Uh, and then also at Dairy Queen. I know it's like, what? I was managing that Dairy Queen part-time, which I had worked there on and off for 7 years. It was just more one of those things where you can just fall back on. But by the grace of God, I was able to continue to grow and eventually freelance. And actually, Chris helped me with that. Like he told me, he was like, I personally see JL, you can't be your future is like freelance. And I was like, okay. And then we just started working towards that, and started getting more gigs, opportunities, and a lot of it was just me taking a leap.
Yeah,
I mean,
that man is
just
brilliant.
right. But yes, he is. And I mean, once I took that leap of faith, I had got a gig to act at Acting Ghost, the TYA show at Alliance. And then
Yeah,
I had no choice but to go freelance from there. So I was like, look at God working this stuff out. So
won't he do
that's
it?
just how it worked out from there. Yeah. And ever since then, I've had times of struggle. I mean, because it's you have downtimes like Christmas. That's a downtime. I mean, I might have a gig, but you know, yeah. So
For sure, for sure. Um, I'm gonna ask this for any freelancers that are out there. And this is for you as well, Jeremiah, because you went from doing full time to freelance.
mhm.
Um, if there are any people who made that same transition, um, and if you please feel free to comment. For you, Jeremiah, like how do you feel like it became better once you became like just working in general became better once you went freelancing, or it still has its tasks, its obstacles, its hurdles to overcome?
I feel like it became better. I felt better. My spirit, my soul, everything in my shanana felt better. Like I just I felt better as a human being because I was doing what I loved. It didn't feel like a job. It didn't feel like, oh, I gotta go here today. I wasn't dreading it. I wanted to do this. I love this. So for me to be able to say, oh, okay, cool. This is my job. I can do kind of not necessarily what I wanted to do, but I could do what I want to do. So, but you have to learn how to manage your time with that. You have to like. It took me a minute. Now I started like thinking I could chill, hang out. I had time, but then you realize no, you have to still wake up and do your 9 to 5 duties, whether if it's just going to a coffee shop and getting work done, or stand up late and getting work done.
Mhm.
Getting building your brand continuously from your website to paperwork and even managing your money. Like that's the most important thing when you're freelancing. You have to manage your money.
Yes, yes. We talked a little bit before. Oh, sorry. Let me see what Kane said. From the jump, I decided I didn't want a full-time job unless I was a full-time performer. I often think about getting one though because of money. That is a very good point to bring up.
Let me just
Um,
say this. Candy has ever since out of college been working freelance. Like what? Like
uh-oh.
as an actor in Atlanta. So first off, she was one of my inspirations. I'm
She's
gonna
very
just say that.
inspired.
I'm gonna just say that.
Mm,
Like gig to
mm,
gig, you know?
for sure. But then we have a follow-up that someone says benefits. So like, let's talk about benefits because as someone who has like a 9 to 5, their job or company usually offers benefits, whereas someone who is freelance have to go through either the market or find a way to receive those benefits or come out of pocket, which we all know that is rather expensive.
I mean, I never really fully had like I've had the
Mm,
opportunity to get benefits, but it wasn't for me as important, which I know for some it is. But I feel like benefits are is something that I mean it just depends on your desire. I mean you could still have benefits, have a side job and get those benefits if that's something you really, really want and still be a freelancing, but you have to find that flexible job. But like what about for you, Jared? Like I know you um a full time or part time job, right? And
mm.
what is that like as far as the
So
benefits of it?
you and I kind of did the swap. Like when I came out of college, I went straight to being a full-time performer. I got a gig at the Center for Puppetry Arts and learned how to puppeteer. I was there for a couple of years. I was a teaching artist where I would teach puppetry. I would teach musical theater to kids.
Mhm.
Um, I've taught everywhere. And what I love about it, it does give you the luxury to pursue what you want to do. Like
Mhm.
teaching and acting and performing, those are my loves. I love reaching, connecting out to young people. I love performing. I love seeing them take what they have inside of them and actually let it manifest into something that everyone can see, their artistry. I will say that,
Right.
uh, unfortunately, I will say due to um, the limited amount of theatrical spaces that provide a livable wage is not necessarily conducive for artists here in my, at least from my personal opinion. And I know I talked to Candy about this before as well, that you find yourself struggling a lot, or you find yourself really scared or paranoid when it comes to working as a full-time artist or a freelance artist because of the limited resources and the pay. At least in Atlanta, Atlanta
Mhm.
being, I think it was 50, but now it's 49 when it comes to support and funding for the arts. So, right, which is crazy because there's so much going on here, but
Mhm.
that's the reality. And
And
oh,
and I was
hmm?
gonna say also adding to benefits. I mean, let's say you are an actor, freelance actor, or even you work behind the scenes. There are different unions that you can join, even still as that freelance artist, to get those benefits that you need or that you would like. So you have,
Absolutely. You know
the
what's
actors
funny?
union, SAG. Yeah.
It's funny is that I'm a performer, but I actually got I was actually eligible to be a part of the music union before I was eligible to be a part of Active Equity due to a gig that I did for what's that show on the CW that have has vampires.
Vampire Diaries.
Is that it? Was that on the CW? Yes, Vampire Diaries. I was on that, and I played a musician in like a scene that was like 20 seconds long on season 4. And then they like called me in and said, "Hey, you want to be a part of the music union?" I'm like, "What does that even?" I didn't know music had a union.
What does that mean? Everything, just about everything has a union. You just got to look into it. I mean, and
Yeah,
that's a good question though. I wonder, like, for example, I know Chris works. He's an actor. He's in the actors union, AEA. So what, like, it's like, can you use that, but still as a sound designer? Like, does that help you? Can you still get benefits? But I know you have to have like so many hours, so many work, and you still have to pay your dues. But you can still get those benefits, right? As long as you
well,
pay your
okay.
dues.
So in order for, as far as like AEA goes with benefits, you have to have a certain amount of show hours or performance hours
Gotcha.
points. Um, and yes, you have to pay your dues, but like on top of that, you have to make sure that you are having, I think once you go equity, you have to have at least, I think like, is it 19 weeks? I could
Yeah.
be completely wrong. It might have changed, but I know the last time I had an actors equity meeting, that was what they told me. It was like 19 weeks you have to have at least in order to keep all your benefits. And then with that, it gets tricky because then it depends on like what theater you work at and like if the theater actually like if they give you an equity contract, is it a guest contract or is it like a contract that actually puts into your pension plan and your benefits? It's a lot.
It's
It's a
a whole
lot.
situation.
Yeah. Are you EMC?
No, I thought about
Okay,
it, had the option, and I mean, in Atlanta, for me personally, I don't think it's, you know, it's worth it for where I'm at in my career of acting. But no,
for sure.
yeah,
I will say I don't think there's nothing wrong going EMC,
right.
but I think you should definitely look into like next time you do a show, get your equity points because that way you can at least harbor some of the benefits
Oh,
of
okay.
EMC. Like, whereas if you are EMC and you go to an audition, you are seen, depending on where you go, not always, you can get, you're a little bit more of a priority. Or because you're EMC, when they're having actors equity meetings, you are now invited to go to them and you're now aware of what's going on in the community, get your face out there, learn some information. So I would say EMC, if you're not trying to go equity, it is still very important. It's no extra money that you have to put out. At least not, I think, I could be wrong.
Hmm.
I know that I only had to put in for my dues like to get started, but after that I
Hmm.
haven't had to put out anything else.
Okay.
So look into that. Anywho,
Got you.
that's a
That's a whole
whole nother
situation.
category. So yeah, benefits, it's something that's very important. I know that like usually when we're younger we don't think about that because we're just on the go and we kind of feel like if we're on the go, we're working, we're busy, we won't really find ourselves into any situation where we need to utilize benefits. My teeth ain't
Until
rotting
we're in
yet,
this situation, right?
huh?
Until we're in the situation.
Until we are in the situation.
Yeah.
So I would, so yeah, how does one as a freelancer, would you, I mean, you might not have the answer to this, is maybe something we could do with a follow-up, but how does one who freelances find their way to have access to benefits that are reasonable? Or how do they find reasonable resources? Or is there any reasonable resources out there for a freelancer to
Mm.
acquire any benefits?
Yeah, that's one that I'm still trying to figure out fully, but I
For
know
sure.
there are avenues and ways that you can research and look up and different offers. Because I mean, you could say like it's also like you said, unions. I'm thinking whatever your freelance is, it should be a union for you as an artist. Um, just as a thought. But I'm sure besides the unions there are other avenues that you can take.
Absolutely. I will say that one of the benefits that I found out to freelancing is because you have an open schedule. You can find yourself doing surveys, medical surveys, or like find yourself doing experiments. I know this
Hmm.
sounds like guinea pig shit, but like honestly, when you do things like that, because you are under the care and the supervision of those hospitals that are experimenting or trying out new kind of studies and cases, they usually try to provide you with some kind of health care. Like,
Gotcha.
for an example, before I became full time, I didn't have access to, or free access to like getting tested or making sure that I had any kind of, and testing for anything, like tested for like sexual STDs or even getting physical exams to check to see where my body's at as far as status until
Which
I
is
started
important.
planning for, I did not exam, sorry. I did a medical study and they were trying to test to see if they can find an injectable version of PrEP. And
Gotcha.
through that, they were able to provide me with medication. That way, if I were to find myself in an sexually active situation, I would still be using the PrEP medication. And I had access to a doctor at any time I need to call them. They always gave me checkups. They tested my blood and everything. So there are ways and avenues that I somewhat discovered or stumbled upon to kind of find ways to help myself there's also a lot of clinics that are very understanding the fact that we are in, like Concentra is one of them, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Concentra, go to them and you talk to them about certain things, like let them know your situation. Some of them are, depending on the case, they're willing to work out payment plans. So,
Hmm.
yeah, I just wanted to point that out. That's something that just kind of hit me on the top of my head.
I have a
Let's
question for you,
see.
Derek. So,
Yes,
oh, unless we have a question here. He says, uh, you there? Okay.
I am
As
the
a free,
union. I have to fight for higher wages, discuss contracts, and keep work hours reasonable.
hmm,
Um,
that
I
makes
feel
sense.
like I feel like as a freelancer, it's a good point, and it's funny that it's coming from this person because this person keeps a lot of hours. But I feel as though that as a freelancer, and I'm going to get to your question in a second, Jeremiah. I just want to answer this one real quick.
Yep.
I do think as a freelancer, you can find yourself not giving yourself a set schedule. The one that you talked about, Jeremiah, the one that us as freelancers really need to like hone in on and stick to that schedule.
Yeah.
We find ourselves working at odd, crazy hours in the night. Like I know I feel my most active literally in the middle of the night, like midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m. And
Yeah.
I feel like that's when my creative juices are flowing. But I can't do that if I'm in an apartment and, Jill upstairs got to be to work at 9 and, Jebediah downstairs got to be to work at 7. You can't do shit like that. So,
These
yes, I will
neighbors.
say, so I will say it is a struggle to keep good hours.
Hmm.
What was your question, Jeremiah? I'm sorry.
No, I was just wondering. It's kind of switching avenues, but I wanted to know, basically, like as a freelance artist and just artist in general, how do you personally go about managing your money? Like, what would be your advice to an artist, freelance, or not
Woo!
freelance?
So if you know that, like, one, I think the biggest important thing, this is something I had to learn the hard way, is if you got whatever W-9 you receive, please make sure you take out the percentage for your taxes. And make sure you
Mm,
don't touch that because Uncle Sam's going to get his money. He is going to get his money. So please make sure you take that into consideration. Um, Also, please make sure you know all the things that you utilize, all the things you spend money on to help further your career, whether it's equipment, whether it's headshots, resumes, whatever aspect or realm of art you're in or a freelancer. Please make sure you keep up with all those things because they're tax writable. There's
mm,
so many times where I found myself wanting to did not find out until the last minute that like, oh man, I could have wrote that off, and that's hundreds of dollars that I let slip out from under my hands because they tax artists hard, and all that money you thought you had to parlay and play with, you really
nope.
don't. You really don't. So it's really important you make sure you keep up with your taxes and your information. Make sure that you put also some money aside for a rainy day. And from what I read from the research that we did for this podcast, make sure that you put money aside to take care of yourself.
You have to. It's the most
Yeah,
important, especially, I mean, if you haven't experienced it now, that is beneficial or that is needed, then you have. I mean, you especially now, like speaking of COVID-19, um, to have something to fall back on, it's like is a blessing. But like, let's say you don't have, right? Come on now. Let's say you don't have something to fall back on. Like, what do you do? And what I found is like you have unemployment you can apply for. You have different relief funds that you can apply for, multiple, and you might be like, I don't know where. Google it. It's some in like for every state for specific things. Musician for like graphic artists, paint artists, performers. Like it's specifics too, and some national. And then I mean, what else do you do? It's something else I had a point of, but yeah, neither here nor there. But yeah, you can apply for all these different things, and make sure that you bring money in that way. And what I've been doing is finding a side hustle. That's the other thing I was gonna say. Finding a side hustle. So if you have
Yes.
creative skills, use them.
Jeremiah, Jeremiah, you kind of
It's
going
like
in and out,
it's
buddy.
broad, so you can. Oh, I lost you too. You with me?
I'm with you now.
Uh, Okay,
I can
cool.
hear you.
But yeah, you can use those. Yeah, I was just saying you can use all your different artistries as a theater artist or whatever artist you are to get by. Like whether it's making masks, whether it's um, selling paint, whether it's what I've been doing is I learned how to live stream. So I've been live streaming for churches. So it's just different options. If you a producer, music producer, this is the time to get in the studio and produce not only your own stuff, but you know, get out there and meet
I
people
think one of the hardest things
virtually.
as freelancers and as young freelancers, I think we're taught how to create. We're not
Mm,
taught how to sell what we create. And so
that's a
because of
big one.
that, we get so fixated on like, oh, there's a show or there's something that's going on that needs me. Let me go submit for that. But
Right.
instead of you just always going to submit and having the money, hey, how you doing so late? Instead of you always submitting and having the money, you going to the money, you don't necessarily learn or internalize how to make money come to you. So the fact that you said that,
Yeah.
side hustles, that's a great thing. Like, creating your own yeses, making the grind start working for you, creating those extra streams of income. So
Hmm.
with you being a freelancer and you saying that like finding your own hustles here and there, what are some things like let's just say like right now during COVID-19 where you're not able to necessarily work on shows on sound design? What are some other ways that you're doing to keep busy? How are you able to stay afloat during this time?
For me, I mean, in addition to applying to these different grants, multiple grants, and even being able to receive some, and doing unemployment, getting unemployment, I was able to live stream. So I live stream for churches, and that's a way just of some little money coming in. You know, churches they're struggling a little bit too now, but to be able to help out different churches and learn live stream, learn how to do the sound, learn how to, if you do, sometimes graphic artistry, I don't necessarily have to deal with that, but that is another avenue. I know people that do that with me, and you can get paid for that. I mean, yeah, that's some of the things I've been doing. And a lot of the things I've been doing is saving. I mean, just every little bit I get, I save. So
Yes.
that was gonna be one thing I was gonna say, like as far as money management, as long as you have, let's say you got all this money, let's say you got a
Uh-oh.
thousand dollars for a week, or let's say you got 1 million. I'm broken up. We here?
You good now. I got you.
Okay. Let's say you have 1 million. Let's say you have 1,000, somewhere in there. But like, let's say you have 1 million, right? You get 1 million, you win it. But if you got that $1 million, you cannot just go blow it and act like you got money. You got to act like you need to plan for the next 30 years of your life as if you don't
Hmm.
have that money. And I mean, yes, that's $1 million. So let's say $1 million, that's 33,000 a year for 30 years. Now, let's say you got 1,000. I know that's a big increment, but like, let's say you have 1,000. So for let's say 30 weeks, you know what I mean? How do you get through? So you budget yourself. And I know you got bills, I know you got all this other stuff, but that's in addition to other monies coming in. But you take those big amounts you get, you save it up, and you budget it as if it's for survival for the next couple of years.
Word. Word. So yeah, I think that was I think it was a really good information. Like I think a lot of people think as though because you have a contract that's worth a couple million, you just go ahead and make a rain that million and not think about the consequences of the future, which is A, the taxes off of that million, or B, what other things that need to be done? How can you expand this million and make more money? When's the next time you're even going to have a contract?
Right.
I think that's when I was freelancing, I think that's something I kind of got stuck into, which is
Mm-hmm.
I found myself always constantly working and like missing out on a lot of things, like, you know, family events because I had a contract and I was so scared to say no to it because I needed to work because I didn't know, like, yeah, this money's good now, but is money going to be good in the future? See, true wealth is not a
That's
result of
good.
how much you make. It's a result of how much you spend. Facts.
Come on now. Come on now. That's good. Now, also, with what you said, that brings me to like a thought, like what you were talking about earlier is bringing up financial PTSDs or financial traumas. And it's
Ooh,
like,
yes.
why did you feel like you had to, like, you know, you couldn't take that, like you had to take that contract? Why did you feel that way?
Okay, so just I'm gonna have you repeat that just because you kind of broke up there. Can you say that one more time?
I said, why did you feel like you had to take that contract? Like, why did you feel like the stress of finances? Let's just speak to that. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. So you're saying
Okay.
like, why did someone have to take a contract due to like the stress that comes with taking a contract?
No, no, no. To financial traumas, and we said so like two financial traumas, financial PTSD.
Uh-oh.
Why
Hold
did
on.
you?
We are losing you. Say that one more time.
Yikes! I'm having Teddy Riley issues. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Okay. So I'm basically trying to figure out and ask, with you saying you couldn't take that contract and that you were scared, you know, that you of not of basically not accepting it. Why was that? Was it due to financial traumas,
Oh,
financial PTSDs?
well, okay. I think if I can speak from like if I can say from my personal experience, why I would feel afraid to not take contracts because you know you're only also the saying that goes you're only relevant as your last show or your last performance or your last
Mm,
job. So it's like that fear, especially when you're young, you just want to make sure you just stay relevant. You stay constantly on the like everyone's mind. Like, hey, I saw you in this last thing, and you're gonna see me in this
yeah.
one. There's also like depending on the shows, like we all have those shows that we just like we want to do, and maybe sometimes those shows are during Christmas, and you find yourself missing out when the family went out of town, and you have to stay here and do a show. Um, those, but also the stresses of like, hey, you know, when you were in college and you were doing theater because you love this shit so much, but now you're an adult and you're graduated and it's no longer for the love of it as more so that you also have to provide for yourself and take care of yourself because being broke, which is a constant struggle for a lot of millennials or younger individuals, is a scary thing. It's a
Mm,
scary thing. And like you said, it leads to things possibly like financial PTSD, which, if some of y'all did not know that was a thing, PTSD is a thing. If you don't know what PTSD stands for, it stands for post traumatic stress disorder. So, this is when you find yourself in a financial situation that is so stressful that it causes you to react in a way that's beyond your normal behavior patterns. Um, and I kind of want to ask you this question, but also extend this to our audience. Have you, Jeremiah, anyone else found themselves in a position where they might experience financial PTSD?
ask me that one more time.
Uh,
Yeah.
Jeremiah? Okay,
Jared,
try it
can you
again.
hear me? Okay. What was your question? Have I ever
So I was
experienced
saying that
financial
I was,
PTSD?
huh?
No, go ahead.
I was asking you and the audience,
Oh,
have you found yourself in a situation, or has anyone out there found themselves in a situation where they experience financial PTSD? Did you hear me?
yes. Yeah, I heard you. Have I
All
found
right.
myself in a situation where I've experienced it? Yes. I have. Oh man, I feel like I constantly have it. Like that's like a lot of people tell me, "Oh, you work so hard." I mean, you're always working, you're always doing something, you're always grinding, and it's because that's when I realized, come on now, that's when I realized it was financial PTSD. Like it's a thing of not necessarily having it when I was young. Um, Seeing my mom and my grandmother, they had money, but they used to act like they didn't because they were living below their means, and they would like really act like they didn't have it. And sometimes they really wouldn't. And the fact that I couldn't get what I wanted when I wanted it really got to me. So it's just one of those things that just made me work so hard. And then I
Mm-mm.
got my job. I finally, can you hear me? Yeah, I finally got my
I got
job. I finally was able to buy my own car. I was working full time out of high school, in high school. So those little things, due to financial PTSD, not being able to get what I wanted as a little kid, really pushed me going forward. So when I got out of college or even in college, I was just constantly working, constantly grinding, and just hustling. I
you.
don't know how not to have a job, and that's when that's why freelancing was so scary for me, man. I tell you, like it was scary, like to say, oh well, you don't have this like 9 to 5 job to always fall back on. It's like, okay, all right. So yeah, that's my financial PTSD.
So, um, so the question was, how do you, I got a question from Soleil. She says, how do you change that
What's up,
mindset?
Soleil?
Do y'all know each
Mm.
other?
Yeah, man, Summer Park, man, we go way back.
Me and her, she and I go way back, like
Yeah,
like literally 2011. Okay, look at these worlds
yeah, we
colliding.
come
I would
on.
say changing your mindset. Okay, so my mindset about so a lot of my parents before I went to school and changed my major to theater, a lot of my parents were like, I'm not you do know like you're going to be an actor is not going to promise you any security. It's not going to you're going to be struggling a lot. And that is something that put fear into me. They put a
Mm,
lot of fear into me, but I remember when I transferred from Georgia Perimeter College to Brenau University, and I remember a girl telling me that her father worked at this car dealership. Like he was like high up there. Not a car dealership, I'm sorry. He worked for a car company. Like I think it was either Ford, he was like somewhere in administration. But
mm,
back in like 2008 when we had that recession, he got fired. And this is someone who had a job that was supposed to be deemed secure. And I told myself that, like, well, if his job is not secure and he's dealing with the same struggles that a freelancer could possibly face, what's the point of me not taking that risk? I should just go ahead and put myself out there. Now, I will say that as a freelancer, I was so happy and I love what I did, or still love what I do, even though I'm not necessarily deemed as freelancer, but love what I do. Um, but I will say I found myself in the woes of financial PTSD, trying to figure my way out of certain financial ruts. But I think the mindset how do I change the mindset? I think that's more so a thing, whereas I myself had to reflect on my current status and say, things look bad, like money's kind of tight,
mm-hmm.
and I don't have the luxury to travel somewhere. I don't necessarily have the luxury to maybe even go out like I want to right now. But are my bills paid? Yes. Am I taking care of myself? Yes. Am I happy doing what I'm doing? Yes.
Come on.
Do I love what I'm doing? Yes. And my thing was that alone for me, and I feel like with any approach with something that causes you any kind of stress or frustration,
Mm,
you have to see yourself as if I can change the situation, I'm going to change the situation. But if I can't change the situation, then I have no choice but to change my attitude. And I had to do that by looking at all the things and all the ways that I've been blessed, or I am staying afloat, I'm staying relevant, I'm working. And so I think as far as changing your mindset, you have to find a way to incubate positivity in your personal life. Like you have to find a way to make sure you surround yourself with positive people. Make sure that you are giving yourself positive thoughts. You have to make sure that whatever you do is conducive to your mental health and
Come on.
well-being. Because whether you
That's
find yourself
good.
freelancing or find yourself at a full-time job, if you're not happy, you will find yourself some way, somehow in a financial PTSD. Because even those who have all those good, nice jobs and jobs, let's say that's secure, as we realize right now during coronavirus, is not really secure. But even when you find yourself in those situations, you still find yourself living a life of struggle. So you
Mm-hmm.
have to, I think it all boils back down to how you internalize your circumstances. Because we see people who are homeless, who have
You
nothing,
have to
but
put that positive energy out.
they're so thankful. And and I don't want to make it seem like I'm like saying shame on you for feeling a certain type of way. I hope no one get
No,
that
no.
from me. But I think sometimes we don't know how to kind of curate that kind of positive energy and how that love.
I
She
agree.
said, Miss Honey, I would rather be poor and passionate
Come
than
on.
well off and miserable in a full-time job I don't like. Yes. Yes.
You have to, because I realized that you gotta breathe, and you can breathe more when you are passionate and you're doing what you love, even though it might be down and you're sitting around. Even though you're sitting around waiting, it's just like at the end of the day, I realize for me, I believe in God. I realize God always is taking care of me. I mean, whether you believe in the universe, as long as you, like you said, spread those positive vibrations, you gonna be good. Cause COVID, we all might be
Absolutely.
like, oh, we struggling, we scared, but look at us. We all got a roof over our head. We all making ends meet. We making it happen some way, somehow. So like, just chill, relax, and breathe.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. For sure. Um, but honestly, I know that Jeremiah, you and myself, everyone's in different positions or journeys in life, and some people are not necessarily um, able to grasp that mentality um,
Mm-hmm.
because of where they are in life. So, if we were to say, what is a conducive way for someone to kind of remedy these thoughts? Like, how can we tell them, like, you know, I know you're feeling the stressors of the financial struggle. How do we if they don't have a community that's available to them to achieve this kind of mentality, this way of thinking, how would they be able to find ways to remedy financial PTSD?
Mm. If they don't have if they don't have these, you said qualities and these resources, how do they remedy PTSD?
Not necessarily like when I mean like if they don't have like for example, how we are creating a podcast to kind of build community, but let's just say prior to this conversation, or even if they're not excuse me, even if they were not aware of how to kind of go about being a freelancer or even a full timer and finding themselves
Mm.
with dealing with financial PTSD, what are some things is there any
I got
advice that
you.
you have for them?
Yes, I would say. I mean, first, yes, continue breathe. That is still, but also
Yes.
eventually, like find the passion within that job, and if there isn't passion, find some type of happiness that you can do when you're out of that job that
Mm,
feeds your spirit. So continue to allow it to feed your spirit. That's as an artist or not. You got to find things that feed your spirit and your soul and your shana now. One thing I also recommend is when you if you are working side hustles and you have to always try to find a side hustle or a job or something that is kind of similar or can be is near what you love and what you really want to do. So even if
mm,
it's like working box office or working as a teaching artist or different things like that, a way that you can just continue to build on your craft
mm,
and build on your knowledge and just be in the room if possible. I always say be in the room if you can. And even if you don't have that and you work in other jobs, continue to look to get out of that. So just let that fight of where you trying to go keep pushing you. You know,
Yes.
and that, I mean, that's when you need to let that financial PTSD kick in, but for the better. You can't just let it be like, oh, I hate this. I'm not. Then you're gonna
Okay.
give up. You got to keep that positivity. So sometimes it's
Keep that
great.
positivity.
You got to let that financial PTSD push you. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So
Jeremiah, can I quote a quote from a famous movie? I'm about to go into my Bougetto, and I want
okay.
to quote Miss Diamond from the Players Club when she would say, "Make that money, but don't let it make you."
Yes. Yes.
Oh
I mean,
man,
and
listen.
that brings me to another point. Health. You have to be able to come home, even if you work them full-time jobs. You working crazy. You might have financial PTSD. Still treat yourself. Take your hot bath. You
You
can
have
treat
to.
yourself without stressing. I mean,
Yeah.
what? You know, like take walks.
You
Get
you
you a
have to.
drink.
Full
You know what
bottle
I'm
sangria, you saw it, but you
saying?
like
Come on.
you really have to. Like honestly, if you find yourself stuck or in a situation where you are unhappy at your
Mhm.
job, you have to find your own happiness.
Yes.
And I know it's one of those things that's easier said than done, but the thing is, what we see, especially in this world, we see constantly all the time that there's billions of people on this earth. There's a lot of things that are going on. People aren't fixated on individuals like they used to be, or even if
Mhm.
ever. So you can't wait for someone to bring you happiness. You can't find your happiness through anyone else. You have to take time and make yourself happy. And if you want happiness through others, you have to show people how to make you happy. But you do
Mhm.
that by treating yourself right.
Come on.
So yeah, having those moments where, if you're broke, I totally get it. But there are things you do when you're broke, just to be happy. Like us being in Atlanta, we are thankful to have so many public parks.
Come
Take the
on.
time to just indulge in nature. Even during COVID-19, these parks are still available in Atlanta. Please make sure, or even throughout the states, wherever you are viewing us from, go to these parks. Become one with nature, because I tell you, nature is so beautiful, and she's talking to us right now. She is talking to us right now, letting us
Mhm.
know, like, if you look at the reports that they're telling us about the greenhouse effect and how things are going, because there are less people on the roads. Yes, it is unfortunate that we have to deal with all these deaths and these high counts of COVID-19. But
Right.
if you look at the reports, our ecosystem, our planet is starting to see positive results because people are staying home. So yes, we can look
Real.
at it. It's a lot that's going on, but you have to learn how to change your perspective.
Mm.
Change your perspective. We might have been raised, might have been brought up, might have been taught how to have a negative outlook, but just because we were taught that doesn't mean you have to still live by that negative outlook.
That's real.
So approach anything from a positive
Mhm.
perspective, or try to approach anything from a gain perspective. I don't want to say positive because
From a
sometimes we,
happy perspective, yeah. You.
just from a perspective to where you see how you can gain from this. And if there's a situation you can't gain from it, then maybe this is not a situation for you. And that's
Come
okay.
on.
That's
Mhm.
okay. That's not a fail. That's not a setback. Because now you know, okay, this doesn't work for me. But I know that now, so I can step over this and
Mhm.
find what does work for me.
That's real.
Yes.
I was gonna ask more so. First off, I want to ask if you guys, since we have like 8 minutes left, if y'all have any questions, please feel free to put them in there. Load it up.
Please.
We're ready to ask. We're talking about finances for the people that just coming in, freelancing versus full time,
Yes.
balances, pay rates, all that stuff.
Did you have any
Um,
stressors or trauma that come with your job or frustrations, questions, whatever it may be? You have about 8 minutes to get
come
those
on,
answers.
8 minutes.
Wow.
Oh,
Like I said, time goes by so fast because I thought we saw like a good 25.
right. Yeah. So I mean, I guess the a question I have is, what do you say about like balance? I mean, we just talked about it. I guess that's what we were saying. But how do you balance that? Because we can tell them to relax and enjoy their lives and do all this, make time. But how do you do that? Some people might have kids.
Yes.
Some
Oh,
people might have
and
different things. How do you balance that?
for those who have kids, my hat goes off to you. I'm not gonna take it off because I'm not gonna
You're
do
good.
that, but that right there. Um, my hat goes off to y'all because I know that's a lot. Like I teach, and just sometimes being with them, like I'm like, whoo, it's been a long day, but it's only about 8 to 9 hours. Whereas, y'all live with them 24/7, especially now during this pandemic. Um, I would say you have to become innovative. You have to become creative. So if you know that you just need a little bit of time to yourself, if you have a partner that can help you take care of your kids, maybe y'all trade off, or maybe it could be a possibility where if you're working from home or if you're at home, spend select an X amount of time with the kids, and then maybe have them read. And while they read, you read or do whatever little crap you want to do, and have them come back and tell you a story about what they've read. I don't. I can't really say too much about as far as kids because I don't have a child, but I know that we didn't make it to X amount of years to the point that we are in life to not be creative, to not be innovative. Well, we have a question.
That's real.
Jerry Davy, as a freelancer, are you able to maintain mental health if working more than 60 hours a week? Woo!
That's a great question because I do work more than 60 hours a week. I would say even now, I mean, I try to work a good bit of hours, but I mean, even then, I would say yes, I had to learn to though. I had to learn to step away, to learn how to take those 5 minute breaks, to stop and just be like, even in the midst of craziness, just stop. Even if I had to walk outside or walk away and just breathe, take a deep 3 deep breaths in, 3 deep breaths out. Um, and also, yes, it is hard, but eating healthy. I mean, I started drinking so much water, just drinking consistently just water all day, keeping a bottle of water with me, trying to get that amount that you're supposed to have a day, and eating right. I mean, I had cut out red meat. I cut out that was about it. But I cut out red meat and different sodas and juices and snacking a lot,
Yes,
or just getting more healthy snacks. I mean,
yes.
and I mean, it wasn't like that at first. Because at first, man, I used to, the first time I really started freelancing and going out and traveling and stuff, I would just go out, eat whatever I wanted, drink, just have a good time. And it backfired on me. And I got really, really sick. But then, I had to learn the hard way. And from there on, I just made sure that I just know I'm important. And you have to remember that you're important.
Yes. Can I
And you,
add to that, Jeremiah?
please, please.
So the fact that you brought up eating a lot healthier and better, I advise everyone to please look up their blood type and see what food is conducive to your blood type to help you live a better and more enriched life. Because one of the things we talked about earlier about like making sure we don't necessarily have the insurance to go and do these things that we need to take care of ourselves. But if you eat right, because your body's an input output system, if you put in good things in your body will produce great things. And
Mm,
if you do that for your body, you would realize that you don't have as many aches or issues or concerns that may cause you to go to the doctor's office to get a checkup or to the hospital or having to go to the dentist and stuff like that. You have to take
mm,
care of yourself. When you really think about the stuff that you put in your body. And I know I'm drinking alcohol. I know that. Listen, there's some
Every
things,
now and
I'm
then,
not
man.
knocking anyone from doing whatever you got to do. Like, there are some things, there are some vices that we need to get through these crazy times. But just make sure you do it in moderation. No one's saying that you can't have a burger. No one's not saying that you can't have cookies, but cookies shouldn't be the only thing
Moderation.
exactly. Just do it at a moderate pace. Take care of yourself.
And that
Um,
connects with finances, Jared, too. What you're saying, like making sure, yes, those foods can be expensive. Healthy foods are a lot, expensive, but it's actually more expensive when we're going out to eat constantly every day. And I learned that too. That is a part of health, mental health, body, physical health, all that health. It's a
mhm.
part of it. You have to learn how to cook, meal prep. I still haven't learned that, but you know, I'm being honest.
Talk to
You
me. I
have to
got you. You know,
you
I meal
have to
prep.
learn how to do that stuff, and it helps you budget your money, which will budget your mental health and everything else. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, Jeremiah, let me know whenever you want to do that. I can help you with like meal prepping. Like I've been
okay.
trying to find, especially now. I've been
Hey,
in my apartment for like a month and a half, not doing
okay.
shit. I've been cooking a lot healthier to try to make sure my immune system is just stronger for whatever COVID-19 is,
Mhm.
and just trying to stay protected from it and stay healthy.
Now, so it don't shut off on us, or do we got like what, 1 minute, 2 minutes? Or you're
Mm.
not sure?
So let's just go ahead and just like
Wrap up.
wrap this
Yeah,
up. And I want to say, first of all, thank you, and let's give Jeremiah a round of applause for being our special guest for today.
thanks for
Thank you, thank
having
you,
me,
thank you,
man.
thank you. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, or things you didn't really feel like expressing, oh, it's about to cut off soon, that you didn't want to express to us, go to opencanvaslive@gmail.com and email us there, and we'll answer whatever questions you have. We look forward to seeing you guys next week with our next topic. I'll get back to you guys about that a little bit later. And later on both Facebook and Instagram, I'll be sharing all our information, our research, our notes that we took for this podcast. In the meantime, please, friends, stay safe, sane, and sanitized. Bye, Jeremiah. Talk to you later, bro.